Stupid. Hello everyone, this is Half Baked Sims with another full flight movie. Today we are trying something completely new for the channel. We are going to be an X-plane flying the Toliss A340 from Denver to Seattle in some pretty crazy weather. I recently got into X-plane. I've been away from the channel for a while, just with holidays and my job and stuff like that. Got a new promotion, so a lot more stuff going on for me. Couldn't really be recording like I wanted to. I did try and record some Tower Simulator. I recorded 4 videos last week, and when I went to edit them, I realized I had recorded all of it without audio, so I scrapped all that. Kind of frustrating. I've done that once a long time ago, but something just screwed up on my end. But I'll get back to Tower Simulator pretty soon. But in the meantime, I've been having a ton of fun in X-plane. I know the game itself looks like 10 years behind Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you know, some of the systems are buggy, the UI is weird. It's kind of, I'd liken it to having an Android instead of an iPhone. And an Android, you can do a lot more technically. It's got more going for it, but the iPhone just works. And I'd say Microsoft Flight Simulator is an iPhone. As far as the systems go, it's pretty bare bones. It looks amazing. It runs amazing. It's amazing to fly. But as far as systems go and available aircraft, it's actually, you know, it's pretty lacking. The only big airliners to fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator are the Phoenix A320 and the PMGG 737s, if you don't count the A310 that just came out. Besides those, it's kind of, you know, it's all GA aircraft. I think there's probably like 150 GA aircraft for every one airliner that's worth flying. So if you want to do some technical flying in some very good simulations of real aircraft, you got to come over to X-plane. So in doing so, I picked up X-plane on sale, and there was another sale going on xplane.org, and I thought long and hard about what plane I was going to get, because it was a toss-up between the A340, the Toliss A340, or the Toliss 747-200, which is the classic 747. Both of these planes were in X-plane 11 before getting ported to 12. And I thought really long and hard about which one I wanted, and I decided to go with the A340 just because it's a good combination of range. You can fly literally anywhere in the world with this plane. If you look at the range map for it, if you fly out of DFW, you can fly to any inhabited city in the entire world without stopping. The fuel tanks are massive because this is a 600. It's an Airbus, obviously. It's easy to fly, but it also runs really well. That was one of my stipulations, is X-plane runs a little better on my computer than Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I also grabbed the FlyJSim Q400, the Dash 8, and it runs a little bit worse than this plane does just because of the props and the air flight, you know, the modeling and everything. So enough with the ranting. We'll talk more about X-plane and my likes and dislikes of it later. For now, for this flight, we are going to be loading up. It's a quick, 2 hours, 17-minute flight. Usually you wouldn't run an A340 for this flight. Most A340 operators wouldn't run the plane under like a 10-hour flight just because of the efficiency of the engines. It's a whole thing. We can get into it. I think the A340 is a really fascinating plane. Oh shoot, all my bindings are messed up. The A340 is a really fascinating plane compared to other Airbus offerings. So, all right, for now we'll have time. We'll have time to talk about the plane and everything while we align the navs. But for the first thing we got to do is we got to get both exterior powers on, all 3 batteries on, which is different, and the cruise supply. We'll get these to set. So when you load up the A340, the first thing you'll notice is that it looks a whole heck of a lot like an A320. The layouts are pretty similar. Ooh, sorry. There's just like an added button here or there. This stuff's pretty similar. Oh, sorry. There's my camera stuff. Everything kind of looks familiar. So if you've ever flown an A320 a lot, you'll hop in this plane and you'll be pretty set on knowing your way around without really having to look stuff up. Let me just make sure that this is bound correctly. Yes. Okay, let's do the initialization. So we have this hooked up to, which button is it? This one. We have it hooked up to SimBrief, so it should be able to download our SimBrief plan pretty quickly here. So yes, like I was saying, you pretty much know your way around an A340 if you've flown an A320 or an A319 or any other kind of Airbus family series. Besides an A350, those are a little bit different. So let's come into the flight plan here. So we're out of Denver on runway 25. We're doing the Dearth 1 transition to... no, that's it. No transition, none. Insert that. We'll deal with the landing when we get there. Okay, and then performance. So this plane makes everything... Which one is my tablet? Sorry for the whiplash. I thought I had one bound to the tablet, but I do not. So this tablet's a normal Abby tab. Part of the thing about X-Plane that's so cool and so nice about finally picking it up is that it's not just, the last year of development, it's the last 7 or 8 years of development, because most of these planes, this one included, actually all of them I'm pretty sure, are imported from X-Plane 11 to run into X-Plane 12. So all the systems, picking up one of these planes like this is actually really nice because all the systems are kind of already figured out, the kinks are ironed out, besides some bugs with the import. A lot of these are kind of dormant. I don't know the last time they worked on the A340. I think it's a newer plane. I think this is one of the newest ones. But I know some of the old ones, they kind of updated them for X-Plane 12, and they're like, okay, we'll fix things as they're broken, but this plane, like, we're not working on it anymore, just because it's older. So we're already loaded. So this is kind of it's kind of weird. So this Avi tab, like I was saying before I got sidetracked by myself, the Avi tab is a universal flight tablet in the game. It's a free download. A lot of planes will make use of this by putting it on something, but if not, you can always just pop it out like this on most planes. And it doesn't really do a whole lot for you off the bat. Usually it's just kind of to look at maps and charts. Like you can upload your SimBrief profile from the SimBrief downloader into a folder and it'll access it here. One of the nice things about X-Plane is it does actively update while you're in the sim. So if I uploaded this PDF document into the sim right now, it would pop up here. I would just have to reload the plane and it wouldn't take very long. But this is, besides Avitab, this is Tolliss's EFB basically. And what this one does is this is kind of just all your general settings, pretty much just whatever EFB does. But since we already uploaded our flight plan from SimBrief into the computer, it has copied that into this section over here, so we don't have to worry about re-uploading stuff. And there's two there's a takeoff performance calculator here that you can use. I like this one a little bit more. It gives you some nice visuals. And it does all the calculations for you on your flaps and your flex. But if we just hit this one, we can see that it's calculated it for us right here. It would probably spit out almost the same numbers over here, but we don't really have to worry about that. So we'll come down here. I think it was 4. Yeah, there we go. So we'll come down here and we'll put this performance stuff in. We can turn up the sound here. Not that. Nope, not that. There we go. So this is one of the nice things about X-Plane as well, is there's so many mods that are quality of life mods. This one right here where you can adjust the sound on the fly without having to go to the pause screen. I'll probably show off another one called X Camera that's just crazy nice, that you can adjust all your camera angles. You can save, 150,000 camera angles if you want, and just scroll between them. That's what this panel is down here. There's so many things in X-Plane that it does technically right, that it's, you can forgive the fact that it looks like crap. I won't say it looks like crap, but it doesn't look anything like a simulator should after having Microsoft Flight Simulator for so long. So we'll do F62. And what I mean by that is that it looks ancient. So let's see, we've got that going. Our IRS is still aligning, not ILS. Our flight plan's already input. We'll deal with that landing later. We'll go up to 380,000 feet. So yeah. While we wait for this to load, I'll talk a little bit about this. So one of the gripes I have with X-Plane is how it does give you the tools to do everything, but by giving you the tools to do everything, it takes its hands off and does nothing for you. There is some default stuff that when you first plug in your controls, your flight sticks, your joysticks, it does kind of automatically put its default settings in, so its default controls what it thinks you should use, which is nice. But when it comes to mapping things to the actual controls, if it doesn't do it by default, sometimes it can be really difficult. It took me a solid, I don't know, I downloaded this airplane, and I think the first hour of me playing X-Plane was literally trying to get the throttle assigned to the TCA Airbus throttle. Now the nice thing is what it does is it automatically assigns the throttles 1 and 2 to throttle 1, throttle 3 and 4 to throttle 2 on the Airbus. I don't know if you can hear my dogs running around. Just stop. It automatically assigns the throttles. So this is me moving one throttle on my physical throttle, and this is moving me the other one, and it moves 2 in game, which is super clutch. But when I sat down to actually assign it, it was really difficult with the auto throttle and reverser. As you can see, compared to an A320, there's actually no max reverse. There's no detent here. It stops. That's the end of the throttle right there. So the reversers actually work a lot more like the Boeing reversers, where you pull them up and they're gradual that way. So right now, I wish I had a camera set up. Right now, when I do that, I'm actually pulling past the detent, the idle detent on the physical throttle, and as I move them back, the reversers come up. So they suggested to buy the A380 throttle pack for the Bravo throttle quadrant. I don't really want to do that because it doesn't have the detents. The detents are really hard to hit when you don't have the physical click that you're waiting to feel. It makes it really hard to know where your throttles are at, and you end up having throttle desync and crap like that. Okay, let's see. Let's reset this. 2973, that's correct. Okay, our IRS is aligned. We will go ahead and get the beacon on, and we will start the APU. Let's turn on about 100 billion fuel pumps. There is no button to just turn all these on. That's the stupid thing, is you have to hit every single one of those individually. Makes it really nice for failures. This is one of those aircraft that has really nice random failures, random faults. I might start, as I get more familiar with the aircraft, I might start playing with these. I was watching V1 Simulations play with one where he knew it was coming. You can completely randomize it so that you can have a percentage chance for something to fail. Anything from, oh, my, I lost, one of my lights is out, to total engine failure, to hydraulic pressure failure, PAX failure, landing gear failure. Everything can be simulated and it can be randomized so that, like in real life, you could be flying around and something could just happen. But they've done a really good job with that, and I feel like that's something I need to start doing, just because it's such a big part of all of these new aircraft that are coming out. Is the random failures are so cool. Okay, so we've got the APU running. I'll turn off the external power now. And the only thing that's stupid about X-Plane 12 right now is I cannot get better pushback to work at all. So I have to do this through the Toliss menu. And when I do it through the Toliss menu, there's no guessing which way or how far you need to go. So it's literally like, I've started just putting it at, I think this is 40 meters. I found that that's a pretty solid pushback. That gives us some room. There's plenty of space behind us because we're at Denver, so we will auto pushback. Alright, don't crash the sim, please. So here comes the truck. Even though there's one right there, there comes another one out of the wild yonder to come push us back. And he will lift us. There's no audio cues to know when he's going to start doing stuff, which kind of stinks, but they were lifted. Parking brake, electric, external. Oh shoot, I need to disconnect all this stuff. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we will turn off our parking brake and we should just start rolling back. There we go. So we'll turn on our APU bleeds and we'll start up our engines after we turn this on because I'm stupid and forgot that. So the cool thing about this plane is that as soon as N3 hits 10%, you can actually start the next engine. And you're only supposed to start 2 at once and wait for them to be available. So you can start almost simultaneously 2 engines on a side. So it makes startup pretty quick. Yep, here we go. We're spinning now. You can hear the engines spooling up. It is very rainy in Denver today. But look how nice that looks. Like, the actual models look fantastic. And I'm not even playing on high settings. I'm playing on like medium texture settings for the most part. And they look amazing. It's just the scenery. Like, this is default scenery. This looks about 50 times better than the default scenery for Denver International in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I had to buy a scenery just to make Denver look like Denver in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The default scenery looks pretty good. Once again, this is all stuff that is pretty much imported from X-Plane 11, which is kind of nice. I forgot to turn off nose wheel steering. Okay, we'll turn on the parking brake here, and we will get engine 1 started. Yeah, so there's a lot of history to be built on in X-Plane. That's kind of nice. You get the past mistakes that are fixed, and you get the new stuff that's nice without having to wait for it. Like Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can say it's the better simulator. It is the better simulator in my mind, but it doesn't have the depth of features that X-Plane does. Just because X-Plane's been around longer. That's all it is. If you give Microsoft Flight Simulator 5 years and all these planes are in it, I don't think anybody's going to touch X-Plane unless they get some serious overhauling done on their end as far as the texturing and the look and feel of the game. All right, I've been rambling for 20 minutes. We have finally pushed back. We're almost available on both engines. We'll make sure that our lights are on. seatbelt lights. We'll turn on our taxi lights here. So we've got available on both engines. We can come down here, turn this to normal, not crank, geez. And we'll turn off the APU bleeds. Let's see, we'll arm the spoiler, flaps 1. And trying to think of what else we need to do before we start testing the aircraft. I guess we can test the... Alright, so after some careful consideration, I have decided to redo the takeoff performance. And by careful consideration, it doesn't mean I just tried it and it failed. But we're going to do a toga takeoff at 3 flaps. I did run out of runway last time before I could really get in the air, and once I got in the air, I just got beat down by the winds. So we're going to go, we're not going to risk anything. We're going to go flaps 3, we're going to go toga. We're going to have packs off, we're going to do all of it. I'm trying to get this bird in the air, and I'm not trying to crash. So let's get our engines booted back up. Okay, we are good to go. So let's turn off the bleeds, turn on the taxi light again. I just did all this, but we'll do it again. Why not? And we will turn our brake to RTO. We will check the takeoff config. Okay. So now I gotta remember what I said and what I didn't say. I think I talked about the taxiing. So with this plane, because it's so freaking big, you gotta be really careful about how you taxi it around, because you can easily run out of space to turn. You gotta kind of overshoot your turns and then turn back into them. You just gotta. It's a whole different animal than taxiing a 737, even like an 800 around. It's so long. It's really wide. The wheelbase is a lot wider than a 737 or an A320. So there's just a lot to do. So let's come up to this turn here. So wait until our front nose wheel is kind of past where we want to be, and then we'll start cranking it. Get some right or some left brake in, keep us online. Some right engine in to turn us a little more. And yeah, we just under turned there. But we'll get there. We'll learn. We'll figure it out. Yeah, the conditions here at Denver are terrible right now. I don't really know about anti-icing. It's still not giving me any anti-ice warnings. I didn't calculate our takeoff to use anti-ice. I guess I could use the engine anti-ice, see what it says. It doesn't really change anything. So we'll turn on the engine anti-ice in the wing. We'll just get all this crap on. I don't want to freeze up on takeoff. We should be good to go with toga. It says we're going to have... this is what's nice. You got this little visualization here. Is it tells you where you're going to end up on the runway when you take off. So we should have some room to get up and going. As soon as I turned on the anti-ice, our engines are outputting less power, which makes sense, which is why we're going to have to toga this. And then there's some stormy weather up in Seattle too, last I checked. So we might be flying out of one storm and into the other. We'll have to see how that goes. Yeah, but only 58,000 pounds of fuel on board, which does seem like a ton, but it's actually not that much for this plane. I can't remember the exact total that this plane can hold, but it's, you know, it's pretty ridiculous how... Let's see if we can actually look at the menu here. So yeah, so our block fuel is way down here at like 10% of what this plane can actually carry. If we look at the fuel here, You'll see we're carrying fuel in the wings, but none of the tanks yet. We've already used 500 pounds of fuel, literally just taxiing this thing for 2 minutes. Kind of crazy when you think about how much gas these planes can suck up. Got all that going. I think we're good to go. When we get up to this runway, we're gonna toga this thing. I'm not messing around, like I said. We already biffed it once, so the second try, we're not gonna take our chances. And I've never togaed this plane before, so it'll be kind of fun. You can just see how snowy it is. I think this default airport's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of the default airports in X-Plane are substantially better than the default airports in Microsoft Flight Simulator. That goes without saying. The Microsoft Flight Simulator default airports are one of the worst parts about the game. Is every single one has the same design as far as the windows go. I know it's AI generated to help on production or development costs, but it's just kind of ridiculous how poor some of them look. I think we're gonna undershoot this turn. Yeah. Just make sure to keep us in the lines here. Let's start the clock now so we don't forget about it. Everything's set up for takeoff. Spool up 50% before we punch it. You can see on the taxi cam, which I need to turn off, that we were still rotating. Okay, there's 50%. Toga. We are not running out of runway this time, I can tell you that. A little off center, but that's just the wind being all over the place. V1 rotates. Come on, let's get up. There we go. And we're up. Gears coming up. Gear up. Can't see anything. We're relying completely on instruments right now. Overturn that. Let's get some flaps up. Start accelerating through. Nav and standby. Let's get this in climb. Always forget to do this. Why are we decelerating so much? It's weird. Sometimes taking off from Denver is super weird. It doesn't like my speed to be that high. It sure is being goofy right now. Such a high pitch on this takeoff. Okay, we should be starting to accelerate now. Pitch the nose down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Get us up to 210 here. Some more flaps out. See if we can go back to managed speed. To 250 is what it wants to set. There we go. Okay. Crisis averted. A little bit of manual flying there on the takeoff. Get all the flaps out. Let's get our autopilot in. Did we ever turn all... we never turned these lights off. Okay, that's fine. We're there. We're alive. Somehow. Okay, we're up through 10,000s. Let's clean up the airframe just a little bit. Look at those engines. Those things are pretty. I like this livery too. I know American never flew the A340. I don't think they ever even ordered one, but let's get our anti-ice off. I don't think we need it anymore. I don't think American ever flew an A340, but it's nice to dream. Right now, I know that the only major carrier of the A340 is Lufthansa. That's the only one I ever see really flying around. And then like Qatar Airways flies some. I left you on ignition because I'm stupid. So yeah, even though I claim to know how to fly an A320 and all that, still making a lot of rookie mistakes here. Let's turn that down because the engines are loud as we climb up here. Yeah, there we go. What are we dinging about? Oh, anti-ice. Whoop. Get rid of the anti-ice. Turn it on. Looks like we're entering hyperspace. But yeah, now that I've set it up correctly, you can see up here, this is a plugin from Volanta that's free, that's super nice. You just input the streamer, the URL into Streamlabs or whatever you're using, and it gives you this nice little bar, your destination, your call sign, all your flight stuff. I forgot to re-import the flight, so that's why it kind of glitched out on us. But it should be good to go now. As we come up through 16,000 feet here. Still not through these clouds. This is some crazy weather we're going through right now. I don't know if I've ever flown out of something like this. It really, literally looks like we're entering hyperspeed. Like I am, holy cow. I think that's a visual glitch. I don't think that's how rain looks. It's kind of making me dizzy. We are not in the Millennium Falcon, actually. We are on a A340. Hoping to break out through the clouds at some point here, so we're not staring into the abyss. Yeah, this plane's really fun to fly. For some crazy reason, I am really good at landing this thing. I posted a video yesterday on YouTube. It was a short of me getting a negative 47 feet per minute touchdown. It's the smoothest landing I've ever had in my life in any plane, and it's in a long haul plane with 4 engines that weighs 600,000 pounds or something. It's kind of crazy how this thing likes to touch down. It's very, very good on with 4 engines. It's got a lot of responsiveness on landing. You're not waiting for the thrust to come in because the plane's a little overpowered, honestly, now. And that's another thing we can talk about. So when the A340 first debuted, one of the big issues was the engines. It has 4 engines. As you can see, this is the same. I think it's the same kind of body they stuck on an A330 wide body. It's very similar. It's a little bit longer, but as far as fuselage diameter and stuff goes, it's pretty similar. And in order to make it a longer range aircraft, they stuck 4 engines on it. Well, one of the stipulations for putting 4 engines on the plane was a new type of engine that used a gearbox. I can't remember what it's technically called. It was something with the engine and the rotors running independently from the internal components of the engine to increase efficiency and provide thrust that was still substantial enough to get a bird like this in the air. And that was going to be the first engine of its kind. It was like the big sought after holy grail of engine design was this particular engine they were hoping to stick on an A340. Well, what happened is the A340 engine that they were designing fell through. The company couldn't deliver it. The technology was just a little bit too far out of reach. And that resulted in them scrambling to find a backup engine for the plane, because they'd already done all the R&D on the plane. They already had the fuselage. Basically, they were already building the planes. And they were like, well, what do we put on this thing? Because part of the selling point of it was efficiency, was fuel economy. And if we put the planes with the same thrust to weight ratio as we were intending, the fuel economy would be so abysmal nobody would order the plane. It would burn too much fuel. Everybody would just go back to Boeing and get a 777 or something like that. There was basically no market for it. So what they decided to do was stick these same engines they used on the A320 on the A340. And they were like, okay, there's 4 of them. So it'll have substantial thrust to get the plane off the ground, but it'll still maintain the efficiency that we want. So it resulted in a very fuel efficient plane that didn't really have a good market, because there weren't enough airports that could actually operate the A340 due to its extreme takeoff distance required. You needed a lot of runway to get it off the ground because of the engines being so small. You couldn't run it out of a lot of airports, and that severely limited who was going to order it, because there was no point in ordering a plane that was underpowered and couldn't take off from airports you needed it to go to. So it kind of struggled for a long time, and once the technology came around to actually strap those engines on, the ones that are on the A340-600 that we have right here, they were able to get the fuel efficiency and the thrust ratio that they needed to make the plane viable again. But at that point, I think its window had pretty much closed. So the A340 is an underproduced, underperforming, kind of a failure from Airbus. One of their big shortcomings was the A340. Just it arrived on the scene too late to be useful. It came around right as the engine technology that they needed to make the A340 efficient and powerful enough to use the plane is the same engine technology that led to its eventual downfall, because as these engines got more fuel efficient and more reliable, you didn't need as many. So they were able to strap 2 engines onto a plane, guarantee that it was still going to be safe enough to fly over the ocean. It had the efficiency and the thrust ratio to do long hauls, could carry more passengers, and planes like the 777 and the 787 sort of destroyed its market. They were faster, they climbed better, they could take off from shorter runways, they were more fuel efficient. There's pretty much every single way that a plane could be better than the A340, those planes ended up being better. And that is why the A340 is seldom flown. It does have its uses. Like I said, it does have extremely good range. Ooh, sorry. The range on this aircraft is extremely good. It can go across the whole world, do it pretty efficiently, do it pretty quickly, and it can do it safely. Because it does have 4 engines, it actually does have a higher safety rating than other 2-engine aircraft, because you can fly this with 2 or 3 engines and still make it pretty far back to a landing, back to an airfield to emergency land. So there is a use for this airplane. It's just quickly being diminished as planes get more efficient, they get more reliable, safer, engines get more powerful. That's kind of where it's left the A340. So a really cool plane, kind of let down by the engine technology of the time when it was produced, that has led to some stagnant orders. So that's our history lesson for the day. But I just think it's such a cool plane. I love flying it. It's a little more hands-on than an A320. The A320, it gets a little tiring after a while. There's not really a whole lot to do. It can't go super far, so you're stuck flying these little routes. And then when you're flying these little routes like that, you're like, well, why don't I just fly a 737? It's more enjoyable personally for me to fly that plane than an A320. So came over to X-Plane, found out this bad boy was on it, got it on sale, been flying it for a while, still learning it, but I am enjoying it immensely. So, all right. As we've reached cruise here, you can see we're actually still 18 miles from top of cruise, or top of climb. We've still got a heck of a long way to go. It says our ETA for landing is 16:01. Right now, let's see, right now it's 13. That can't be right. That must be off. Let's see if we do progress to Seattle. Distance to Seattle. So 821 miles until Seattle. Still got a long way to go before top of descent. Still got a long way to go. So according to the sim brief output, it should be about 2 more hours on the flight. But the good thing is you don't have to sit here and listen to me ramble about random crap for 2 hours. I'm going to do some flight sim time lapses, get some good looking shots for you. I know the clouds kind of suck. That's just the way X-Plane is, but I will come back to you guys probably, I don't know, probably in an hour or so in flight time, and we will see that. All right, we are back in the cockpit after some time lapsing. We're still about an hour out from top of descent, 440-ish miles. I think it'd be a good time to talk a little bit more about X-Plane. So from what I've gathered about X-Plane is because X-Plane 12 just came out, a lot of the issues are still prevalent in the sim itself. So that would be the texturing issues. This looks, pretty god-awful compared to Microsoft Flight Simulator, clouds. One of the big ones that really bugs me is the inconsistent autopilot thrust modulation with a headwind. As you can see, we have a steady headwind of about 21 to 22 knots. That's not really flying all over the place, but our airframe, because of the way that X-Plane is calculating our speed and our airframe, it's really playing with the thrust here. This is going up and down. We're kind of rocking back and forth, and that's just something that I've discovered you kind of have to live with if you use live weather. If you don't want to deal with it, you can put on clear weather and get rid of the wind, and your plane will fly just fine. There's no issue with it. It really just happens at cruise. Once you settle into your cruise speed, it really overdoes trying to maintain 450-ish knots. Like, that's all it cares about, so it does all this crap. Usually planes don't rev up and down like this at cruise. But yeah, that's just one of the minor gripes. I think the plane and the game, otherwise are really excellent. Like I said earlier, it does what it does very well. It does give you a really good simulation of the planes. It uses a very advanced calculation on the airframe for weather and such, which is, why this is goofing up right now. But yeah, I think it's a solid investment if you're willing to spend some money on it. That's the only caveat. It's like Microsoft Flight Simulator. but much worse. If you just buy Microsoft Flight Simulator, you get the base $60 edition. You get so many GA planes. You get access to Microsoft's world updates. You get the great, texturing and you know, some good airliners that are. The A310 is, you know, for a default airliner that's free in the game. That plane's incredible. In X-Plane, you do get some more planes. I haven't tried out the A330 and the MD-80. I know are kind of like the A320 and 747 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, where it's, you know, it's there, but it's not anything crazy as far as system depth goes. But besides that, if you want to get something out of X-Plane, you have to buy the game and then you have to buy a plane. You know, nothing too much crazier than buying Microsoft Flight Simulator and then buying, you know, PMDG 737 or Phoenix, for example. Those are, you know, a little bit cheaper. The X-Plane add-ons, I have noticed, are substantially more expensive than the Microsoft Flight Simulator ones. I know PMDG's 737-800 was $70, but this one was $90. You know, most of them run $70 to $90 on the low end. The 767 is one that I thought about getting instead of the A340 briefly, but it runs $120 if you want the full version. Now, the full version does come with 4 separate versions. It comes with the old 6-pack. It comes with the 90s version where it kind of looks like the MD-80, where you'll have these 2 screens top bottom, but you'll still have everything else around it. It's still a 6-pack. And then it comes with the modern avionics package. So you get a lot of bang for your buck out of that. But it's still $120, which is, you know, that's crazy. That's the price of 2 video games. That's, you know, that's more than you spend on like flight controls. Like you could go find, I got the Boeing yoke for $230 or something, and that's the price of 2 add-ons on X-Plane. So it's like, it is a little pricey, but I think it's just kind of a reflection on how much work has gone into those planes themselves. So there's a lot of options. That's the thing about X-Plane, is if you want to fly an airliner, X-Plane has everything. They've got an A319, 20, 21 Neo, all by Toliss. They got an A340. They got an A350. I know the A350, I read that it does have some issues updating the X-Plane 12, because that was another one I looked at getting. But the whole point of the A350 from a sim standpoint is getting that side screen where you get all your information on it. And I know it's kind of wonky right now, but that could be a plane that we look at picking up if it's on sale. I was really interested in that one. There's so many planes. I guess we can go look at it. Let's see here. So this will be a bit of a longer video, just because we're talking about X-Plane. We're talking about the A340. So yeah, this is one that I really wanted, was the 747 Classic. I pulled the trigger on too many classic airliners with, you know, avionics like this, and it's really fun to fly. It's super cool, but then you sit down and you realize that in order to fly the thing, you have to put so much into it. Yeah, like I was saying, the cool part about these classic airplanes is the fact that you've got to do so much to manage the thing, and that's also the downfall for me. Is you hop in the plane, you spend 40 minutes setting the plane up, and then, you know, you have to fly it, and it's like, it's a whole long process. There's a lot going into it. The other one that I was talking about was the A350, Airbus A350 WXB. So this is the other one. It's got an X-Plane 12 version out, which is nice. Yeah, this stuff right here. So This thing's cool. The only thing about it is that I would really only like to, because you know you can use it for checklists. Behind it, you know, all your screens are right there, but you know you'd like to have your Navigraph there. But at the same time, it is a little older. It does have some compatibility issues. Like the texturing you can see is kind of terrible. That's just kind of how it goes. This is probably the best modern airliner in X-Plane right now, from what I've gathered. Is if you're gonna buy one that's up to date, brand new, got the best coding, the most recent, it's gonna be the Toliss A340 or Toliss anything. From what I've heard, Toliss is the PMDG of X-Plane. They're the ones that are gonna have the best bang for your buck as far as quality goes. Okay, so we'll here, I'll bring it over Navigraph and we can set this up. So we're looking for the 16 right, and we're coming in here, so we're gonna have to bend up and around. Could do an RNAV. RNAVs are always fun, a little stressful. We'd always just turn on transition from Kybux here. So we'll come up here, we'll have a vector to Kybux, and we'll come down and around. Let's go ahead and get that set up in the FMS flight plan, Seattle arrival. Jeez. And what did I say we're looking for? 16 right. 16 right from Chins 5 transition, or via, say Kybux, and transition from PDT. So we insert that in there. So let's go check out the plan here. Yeah, so there's the transition. Looks good to me. But you know, we don't have to worry about it for another hour. Yeah, you could see we lost some time there. This was 2021 or something when I first brought you into the cockpit, and it's bumped all the way up to 2031, and that's just that inconsistent thrust that we've got going here. It won't stay steady at like 80%, you know, and really drive us forward. It kind of just is at the mercy of the wind right now. But yep. Let's see. Right now we are. Let's see where we're at in the United States. We're still over the Rocky Mountains right now. We're just north of, it looks like Salt Lake City, off to the left down there. I can't see it through the clouds. That's the other thing that's really stupid about X-Plane, is it decides that every single square across the United States has a circle pattern crop field. It looks kind of insane to look down and see a bajillion circles everywhere. That might just be something that improves with time, or a mesh or something, but until then, we will deal with it. So, yep, like I said, we got another hour or so until top of descent, so I will do some more time lapses and I will bring you back in as we get there. So we are back up in the cockpit here. We are about to start our top of descent down to, let's do 1900 feet. Oops. Push it in, manage that. So we are starting our descent now. You can hear the engine spooling back. I've already input all of our destination data, as you can see here. We're going to land on 16 right. We're going to use auto brake 2. So the way that this calculator works, I'm thinks is it predicts that we'll need 5,852 feet. That's kind of what it wants us to hit. So our goal is to move our auto brake setting to match the bar as close as we can. So if we moved it to 3, this would move down, but if we move it back to 2, we're back up here. So pretty clear in Seattle. It's only 6 degrees. Don't have to worry about anti-ice conditions. We've got the seatbelts on. Pretty easy flight so far. We're coming up right on 2 hours, so we should be on the ground here in about 20 minutes. We're hoping to be on the ground. Should be a nice easy turn into our destination from our flight. We'll just have to overshoot the runway on a turnaround for our ILS approach. ILS approach works the same way in this plane as it does in an A320, A319, whatever you want to call, whatever Airbus you're familiar with the most. You don't have to worry about anything. It's kind of crazy. So leaves us to focus on managing our descent path, making sure our speed is not too high. The only thing about this plane I've noticed is that if your speed's too high and you're over, like most planes, it's really hard to get back on profile. But for this plane, especially because it's so large, getting back in profile is kind of tough. I've never even seen if this works. It doesn't look like it. I do know that these are independent of each other, which is kind of nice. You can have 2 different flight plans going if you truly want to. So, yep, like I said, it's cloudy in Seattle. You can see the line of clouds here as we approach the northwest. We're actually going to fly pretty close to the mountain. What's the mountain's name? It's killing me. Mount St. Helens. See it on my map up ahead, but obviously it's obscured by the clouds. Hopefully you don't enter hyperspace on the way down like we did coming out of Denver. So as far as fuel goes, you can see that it's cross-feeding. This plane does a really good job of managing its cross-feed without you having to worry about it. We've got no fuel in the center tank. We've got a little bit of fuel in the wing tips, but most of the fuel is in the center 2 wing tanks. Yeah, should be good to go. So I will do a little bit more time lapsing and I will come back to you guys as we start our final approach into Seattle. Okay, back in the cockpit, probably for the rest of the flight here as we come down into Seattle. We're just coming through 18,000 feet. We'll switch over to our, switch off of standard onto 29.82 on the altimeter. That's the name, altimeter. Get some sound going. Come on, get out there. So, pretty easy flight. See, these clouds don't look too bad. There's the mountain over there. That's a cool shot. Look at that. Let's see if we can get a screenshot. Ooh, that's loud. So, that looks pretty cool. That looks good. See, the clouds here, like that looks really cool to have these layers of clouds like this. This is something that you don't really catch when you're flying above or below them, but there is some good depth to the clouds. There's some good real life feeling to them. So we'll come off standard. What did I say? 29.82. And I have it set up so that all of these are synced, so you don't have to set them. You don't have to set them individually, which is nice. So we're looking for 7,000 feet. before we turn back towards the airport onto the Kaibuks waypoint. So let's look at our flight plan and see where we're going to be at. So there's the discontinuity here. So when we get to, let's see, is that an altitude restriction there? Yes. So when we get to Auburn and we hit that 12,000 foot altitude restriction, as soon as we hit the manual, I'm going to change it over to flight level change mode, and we'll go on down to 7,000 as we turn back around. As we turn back around to Kaibuks, I think is how you would say that. Hopefully we don't get any more lighting glitches. As you just saw, there's just a little bit of that going on. That's just an X-Plane thing. I haven't seen any fix for it. Some of the streamers I watch also run into that occasionally, where it's not just the airplane, it's the whole stream, or the whole game will just start flickering randomly. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what causes it. Here we go into hyperspace briefly as we go through that cloud. Let me know any mods or anything that you guys have for X-Plane. Right now I don't have anything besides the planes installed. Like I said, I don't have any weather mods. I don't have any texture mods, no meshes besides the default ones. So if there's anything you guys have that can make the game look better without hitting the FPS, let me know, because that's something that I'm definitely on the lookout for. I will say this game does hit the frames less than Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know if I already mentioned that. It's a lot easier on my computer. So I find myself, even when I'm cruising around at 25 frames, it's a constant 25 frames. It's not ever hitting 50, but it's not ever going below 20. So I've got a nice, smooth experience on X-Plane so far. And that's running 3 4K monitors with the game on one of them. So about to start our turn. The airport, if we could see through clouds, it would be right off of our nose here. It would be straight ahead. But it looks like it might be clearing up over Seattle. There's a lot of clouds, but I'm seeing some breaks in the clouds. We can see the ground here and there. So maybe the ceiling's just really low, or maybe the clouds are breaking up finally. We shall soon find out. Yep, there's hyperspace again. Like the water droplets, like when you're standing on the ground, it looks great on the window. There's the little rivers running down the window. It looks good in the passenger windows, but then when you're flying at 300 knots through the rain, it just looks like stars flying past the window. That might be something there's a mod for, or something that I need to change on my settings. I do not know. Still at 13,000 feet, so we don't need to turn any lights on yet. I guess we could make sure, see, wing lights are on, nav lights are on. Coming down through another cloud here. So I'll go ahead and actually program 7,000 feet, because that's our target on the manual. Or the vector, I guess is what it's called, not a manual. But it is, yeah. And our final approach speed, we're looking for 149. Yeah, the wind is actually really favorable. It's a 10 knot headwind with a 7 knot crosswind. So might get blown around a little bit on landing, but nothing that the plane can't handle. It's big enough to not get tossed around. That's kind of the nice thing about being so large, is you can kind of cut through the wind because you've got the weight behind your momentum to make sure that the wind isn't slinging off the runway path. So very different between flying this and the Dash 8. The Dash 8, any kind of wind or any kind of crosswinds, gust, anything, and you're flying all over the place. Okay, so let's once we get through 1,200 or 12,000 feet here. So let's get some vertical speed going here. Anti-ice detected. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, whoa, what the heck? You see that? It just disconnected autopilot randomly. Also, we were really slow. Oh my gosh. Holy cow, what the heck was that? This is the first time I've ever had a systems issue with the A340 here. Usually we're fine. Let's go down a little bit here. I think that was a stall. I think 210 was a little low on the speed. I think we stalled it. So like I said, we're looking for 7,000s. I don't think that's when we're going to hit 7,000. There's no way. Maintaining an easy 1,000 feet per minute descent here. Because we don't want to be at precisely at 1,000 by the time we hit here. We kind of want to be at like 7,500, 8,000, so that by the time we move in, we're still on a nice glide slope. You don't want to really like level off and then turn and then keep descending. So there's 10,000 feet. We'll get some lights on. We'll just turn on every single light that we have, just so we don't have to deal with it. I guess we have to turn ignition on. Yeah, maybe we can kick it up just a little bit here. So, still can't see anything. We're very reliant on our instruments right now. Let's go ahead and zoom this back in. Alright, so we're about 10 to 12 miles, about 12 miles from where we want to really start our turn. So we've got another 2,000 feet to go. We can go back up here. We don't have to descend quite so quickly. I want to come around the corner and drop the flaps, because at that point we'll be within 15 miles of the airport. Let's see, are we picking up? Yeah, so we're 11 miles out right now. Ooh. Comes hyperspace. See, there's like the little raindrops. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I guess we don't even want to arm that. Did we ever? Yeah, we just armed the taxi light. Okay. There's our glide slope bug coming back in, so we're actually pretty close to where we'd want to be on the glide slope anyway. If we wanted to land right now, which we do not. 110.75, that's correct. Don't lose your speed. This thing does have a hard time maintaining speed in the wind. That's just a simulator thing, though. I've heard it ran fine in X-Plane 11, and X-Plane 12 is having difficulties, like I said, with the flight model matching. So we can start. Alright, let's see. We're going to go direct to Kybux. Insert. Go back on. Oh, shoot. Back to managed mode. we will get this bad boy lined up. So let's drop it to 210. We'll drop our flaps. There goes the slats. There's the river, or the ocean down there. You can kind of see the Seattle Bay. So once we turn in, I'm going to establish us on the localizer before we start capturing the glide slope. Kybux is actually 6,000. I was off by 1,000 feet. I read Zekro, which is a waypoint over here that we're cutting off right now. Give me some water for this landing. So make sure to, if you're watching this, make sure to give the video a thumbs up or a like and subscribe. We're gonna do a couple more videos with this. Now that we have X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator at the same time, we're gonna have access to a lot more planes. I don't know how many more planes. I looked at buying the Rotate MD-11, but I don't know. I'm already waiting for the MD-11 that's coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I feel like if I bought it in a year's time, I just wouldn't be flying it anymore. It's kind of how I feel about a lot of the planes in X-Plane. Is as soon as this plane, like, the A340, I love this. If this came to Microsoft Flight Simulator, I would probably just uninstall X-Plane. There's no reason to fly X-Plane if the system depth on the plane that you want is as good as the one in X-Plane if it's in Microsoft Flight Simulator, if that makes sense. Let's get on the localizer here, and we'll just do the approach. Actually, we're right on glide slope. We're still 16 miles out, so we don't have to worry too much about speed yet, as we're picking up some more wind here. Glide slope's green, localizer's green, Cat 3 singles selected. There's that crosswind I was talking about. Shouldn't be too bad. Alright, so let's get set up. We've got auto brake 2, spoilers armed, lights on. Let's get another thing of flaps down. Oh, shoot. Don't overspeed the flaps. Let's get down to 180 knots. 14 miles out. And it looks like we are diving hard to stay on this glide slope. Just go ahead and arm our final approach speed, 149. I don't want to get caught over speed like I am right now. Actually, let's get some flaps out. Slow us down as we come through hyperspace again. Yeah, look at that. Put the flaps out too early. Yeah, I've flown into Seattle twice, and for some reason SimBrief really wants to put me on 16 right, despite it being the shortest runway. We should be landing 16 left. If I ever fly back to Seattle, I'll have to remember that. 16 right is a solid 3,000 feet shorter than 16 left. So, putting the biggest plane on the smallest runway. I'm pretty sure this runway is like very uneven too, so we might have some fun looking arrival here. Alright, 10 miles out. Let's go ahead and drop gear. Whoa. The heck was that? That is not a noise you usually hear when dropping a gear. Look at that. I love the 4 landing gear. The center one's really cool looking. Alright, let's get our final flaps in. Make sure that's 4 selected there. Got it. Still don't have runway in sight. Oh, there it is. We do see it now. we'll just let the autopilot take us in here. All right, we're set up for landing. There's the rain, there's hyperspace again. We'll disengage autopilot at about 1,000 feet and we'll send it in ourselves. The crosswind has turned into more of a headwind, which is nice right now. Don't have to worry too much about getting blown off path. It might flip around more. We'll just have to keep an eye on it as we approach here. Make sure it doesn't turn into a nasty crosswind right as we're trying to land. I do find it interesting for an international airport with 3 runways. They all face the exact same direction. I guess I don't know anything about the winds, but... Okay, let's see. We'll disconnect autopilot. And put our armrest up. So we've got some room here. And we really don't have to worry too much about our trajectory here. It looks like we're coming in a little low and a little off. We'll just go ahead and move that, turn off flight directors so it doesn't bug us. Oh, there's some stutter, but nothing we can't handle. Got it. And the rain's starting to clear up right as we approach final here. We're a little high. I'm going to watch our height here. Yeah. Got it. Oh, we are way off center. Come on. We got this. Oh, we are so high. Let's go ahead and do auto brake 3. Look at that freaking weird. There we go, landing. See, we just had to go up a hill there on a runway. It's just part of the experience. Alright. 70 knots, manual braking, reversers out. So, not too bad. Good thing we switched over to auto brake 3. We would have run out of runway there. We used up pretty much every single bit of runway that we were allowed to use there. Just came in a little high on the approach. I was very concerned with the crosswind and forgot to manage our height. So let's see. Let's do that. Let's get our flaps out. And we are into Seattle. Not too shabby. Just go all the way to the end here. 2 hours and 22 minutes on the clock. About 5 minutes over what we thought it would be. I think that is attributed to our weird malfunctions in cruise with our thrust. But we are good to go. Look at all these big boys over here. We'll park up by this big old, I think this is the cargo terminal, but we got American Airlines, a Virgin 747, looks like a 787 from Air New Zealand. I don't know if Virgin ran any 747s. I don't know about that. There's an Alaska flight over there. It looks like a little E-Jet. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get the APU started. Come on, there we go. It takes a little bit longer in this for the APU door to get open compared to an A320, I've noticed. Yeah, there's an old What is that, like an A310 or something? It's an old plane from American. Look at that old livery. We are the new American. Overturn just a little bit there. Look, we're barely going to fit. Look at the wingspan on this sucker. A little off center, but we shall survive. Parked right there. Let's do it. Okay. Whoop. Parking brake goes on. APU's available. Turn on APU bleeds. Get our engines off. Let's come up here. Grab. Let's see. Grab our ground services. Turn on the external power. Let's connect up to that. Turn off the APU. Turn off the seatbelt signs. Taxi lights. Beacon. And there we go. We are into Seattle. Oh, that's not us. That's us. Pretty good flight. I'm not gonna lie. That was a lot of fun. Let's see if we can check our. Let's see. Let's our landing rate here and flight. Review it. Yeah, negative 1,300 on the landing rate, but only 0.87 on the G-force. So a very quick descent, but a very soft landing, if that makes sense. All right. Well, thank you guys. Again, if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. For more of these, we're going to be back in the A340 pretty soon. I imagine it's a joy to fly. It's not too intensive on the confusing bits and bobs of flying an airplane. So until next time, I will see you then.